This is a card that we made at Stamp Club in April of 2024. The stamp set that we used is called Heartfelt Hexagon, and it does have a coordinating punch, the Heartfelt Hexagon Punch. I'll be showing you how to make this card step by step. The first thing I'm going to do is get the stamping done. So I'm stamping the outline stamp of that hexagon shape onto a piece of basic white cardstock, and I'm using fresh Freesia ink. The next color that I'm reaching for is Starry Sky, which is one of the colors that is retiring at the end of April. And I'm stamping the words centered into that hexagon shape. Next, I can easily punch out the shape using that hexagon punch. You can see as I'm sliding it in, the paper is a little bit too wide for me to fit the punch and get it to match up correctly. So I'm just going to take some scissors and snip off a little of the edge of that paper. This way I can slip it into the punch, line it up straight, and punch out the shape. Now I also have some flowers that I punched ahead of time. I did these out of scraps. There's the punch I used, the Petal Park Builder, and I did some scraps of Fresh Freesia and Calypso Coral. In this case, I did 1 large and 2 small flowers, but in the original card, we just did 3 small flowers. I also have those 2 green leafy branches. That is from a retired punch, but there is a current punch called the Bow Punch, and that would be a great option to use to punch out the stem and leaves. I used garden green cardstock. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and glue the white layer inside the card, and this white layer measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. By the way, that card base is very standard size. It's Fresh Freesia cardstock, and it measures 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and it was scored and folded at 4 1/4. Next, I have another piece of basic white cardstock. This piece measures 3 1/2 inches by 5 inches. We're going to go ahead and center that on the card front as a layer. And then another layer is going to go on top of that one. You can see that the border between the white and the base is a little bit wider. And now putting on this piece of Fresh Freesia cardstock, which measures 3 1/4 inch by 4 3/4 inches, has a smaller border between it and the white piece. So I liked that little bit of contrast in this card design. So I used from some cardstock. I used some designer series paper that is going to be retiring as well. And this particular paper came from a large pack of designs. And this was the Delightfully Eclectic 12 by 12 paper. I have 2 pieces that are cut 1 1/2 inches by 3 inches. That's the floral. And I have 2 pieces that are cut 1 1/2 inch by 1 1/2 inch. And those you can see are the striped pieces. Now what I've done and what I recommend is laying the pieces down, doing a dry fit at first, just to kind of get everything placed where you think you're going to want them to go. Once you're pleased with that, you can leave them in place and remove one at a time and go ahead and glue each one in place. This is a great way to keep the spacing both between the pieces of designer series paper as well as the border around the edge. Kind of helps keep it equal. So I've got my 2 largest pieces glued on, And then continuing with my multi-purpose liquid glue, I'm going to put those two square pieces on. Even as I'm laying these down, I'm placing them gently, just in case I need to slide them any direction, just to either straighten or change the placement. And then once I've got it and I'm pleased with how it looks, I can give everything a nice press. All right, now we're going to go to our little tag that we created with the words. And I'm going to use 4 dimensionals to put this into place. I like the idea of 4 just to make sure that the whole thing is anchored and it doesn't kind of wiggle around or especially sink. If I maybe only used 2, the middle might sink a little bit, but 4 around the edges seem to be a good method for this hexagon shaped piece. That's going to go right there in the center. And then we get to attach our little pre-punched pieces. So I'm going to use a small amount because a little goes a long way. A small amount of glue on my leafy piece. And I'm able to tuck it in, especially because I only put those dimensionals in certain spots, so I can avoid those. Tuck that little leafy piece in and then do the same with the second one. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the original card and the one that we made at Club had 3 flowers all of the same size, that smaller size that's shown there. And this time, just to do something different, I went ahead and did 1 larger flower. It's the same punch. The Petal Park Builder has 3 sizes of flowers in it. So with my scrap of fresh freesia, I punched 1 large and 1 small, and then a small one out of Calypso Coral. I've placed a regular size dimensional on the back of that larger flower, and I put the mini dimensionals, the smaller dimensionals, 1 on each backing of the small flower. There I'm showing you kind of the difference of the small or the large flower. All right, so peeling off the little backing paper, you can determine your placement so that your petals look good and you're not covering up your words. There's one with Calypso Coral, and here is the fresh freesia one. To finish this up, I wanted to add some rhinestones, and there's a little pause here. I had not pulled the rhinestones to my desktop, so I just had to step across the room, find those, and pull them out. On the original card, we used 3 small rhinestones because of the size of the 3 small flowers. This time I chose a larger rhinestone for the center of that flower, the larger one. And then I used a small rhinestone in the center of each of the 2 smaller flowers. A very quick card, one that you could change up with colors and designer series paper choices. Here you see I'm just pressing those rhinestones down, making sure that they are stuck down very well. And there is our club card.